Math was not fun for me. Sometimes it was an excruciating experience.
It was very hard.
Get something like a star, and then who didn't, you would get a lemon. Always tried to do our best to get that star. She'd put your name up and put a lemon by your name so everybody knew who got a lemon.
It wasn't a positive experience. I think there was a lot of anxiety around the learning of math. We worked alone, out of workbooks, or off dittos.
Most of it was done by yourself. I remember a lot of it was written.
And doing worksheets, working in a book, 40 problems. I could do the problems, but I couldn't really tell you what they applied to. I could just do them.
No, quiet. Definitely quiet class. There's no collaboration in, no, none of that.
When you look into a classroom today, it may look very, very different from what you remember as a child. No longer is everybody sitting in their separate rows with the teacher in front. You'll see children interacting in small groups. You may see the teacher wandering around talking with a group of children, coming over, interacting with another group, stopping and helping another group do something different. You'll see children relying on one another for help with ideas. You'll see children exploring and actively involved. The classroom will be a busy place, and it will be a place where there's a great deal of activity and a great deal of thinking going on. Arithmetic has always been the major focus. It's one of the time-honored 3 R's. But in the workforce today, knowing how to do computation is not what's being asked for. They're looking for workers who can assimilate information, solve problems, and to work with people cooperatively to come to decisions. It's thinking and reasoning, and that's what the teaching has to do for children in school. Mathematics has to do with geometry, measurement, probability, statistic, logical reasoning, functions, patterns. All of this has to be accessible to the child.
That'd be 125, right?
Yeah.
8 of these make one red one.
8 of this.
Well, that would be one side of the cube. 5 times 5 equals 25. 25 times 6 equals 150.
4 que ya tenemos. O podemos, ves, más necesitamos uno. Pero no sabemos. Ella quiere saber cuántos pueden caber adentro. How many do you think this fit in this? Do you understand that?
And who would like to share something that they found out with their partner?
It takes 125 small cubes to make a whole big cube.
It does not.
Now, as you're saying that, I notice your partner's going, no, it doesn't.
No,
What did you have a disagreement about it?
It takes 5 cubes to get one side.
Okay.
And 5 times 5 equals 25, and it has 6 sides.
So what
25 times 6 equals 150. And that's 100. So the 150, but you have to feel the inside. So I think it's like 200.
Are you definite on 200 or you're estimating this?
No, I'm estimating.
Okay. Eddie, do you have some way to respond to David?
I think there's 275 in this. Cause there's 25 in each little square, and we got this one and we measured it to get 5 squares. We think that there's 5 flat squares in here, and we counted 5 from each.
Okay.
It would be 25 times 5 because here would be one 25 layer, then move it, there'd be another 25 layer, then another one, another, and there will be 5 of those. So it'd be 25 times 5, which would, I think, equals 125.
Rather than teaching children procedures that they then practice by rote, today we give children problems to solve. We have them interact with each other in small groups. We give them physical materials to work with, and we focus on their thinking, reasoning, and making sense of what they're doing.
Let's go back to David, and we'll just see where you're thinking now. You've heard all those different explanations. What do you think?
Now I heard that she was using the purple squares.
Mm-hmm.
This purple cube can fit into here in the middle, and there's 64.
Okay.
So it has to be like, you got to take the number outside and plus it, add it times plus 64.
Is there anything else that you found out?
First we thought it was one purple cube is 64 1/25 of a yellow cube. We figured that out because if you saw the yellow block like this, then you put the purple inside it.
Sometimes there are things like cubes or rods that have inherently some mathematical structure in them, that have different shapes that you can explore. And rather than about thinking about the idea abstractly or seeing it on a page, you can actually fit pieces together. You can measure them one against the other and think about the relationships. You see, mathematics is the study of relationships and the connections between relationships, and the materials give kids a real concrete way to focus on those relationships.
Construction was very practical and concrete. And you could, see what was going on, and you could touch it and feel it. Square feet, lineal feet, it's volume of concrete, angles, and the more you can see it, the easier it is to learn. Every time I drive by a construction site, I don't care where I am, I stop and see what's going on, just because it takes so much, a lot of different people and ideas and participation to make this thing into an actual functioning building.
I think there's no better way of learning anything than to get involved with it, and the same thing holds for mathematics. What teachers are doing today is presenting ideas to children in contexts. It may be a real-world context, it could be an imaginary context, it could be a physical material that gives a context, but something where there's some way to hook all these abstract ideas so that children can bring meaning to them in some way.
What if I were to measure across the puppet stage here with orange rods? How many rods do you think it would take? Okay, Sean, how many do you think?
10.
Jason?
The same as Sean.
What was that?
10. 11. 18.
We've got a lot of guesses. Let's try it and see. I'm going to put these rods across now and try to get them close together. And let's put them across. How many so far?
3, 4, 5, 6, 9.
Okay, 9 fit almost exactly. Okay, now we know how many orange rods it takes, and I'm going to give you a new problem. What I want you to think about is how many yellow might fit across there. I want you to explain the problem to your partner. And then think about what your answer might be. And then I want you to write on the piece of paper that's on your table how you figured it out.
I think we should write for the number. I'll write mine 18. We're done.
I'm going to have some children come up now and read what you wrote on your piece of paper. Look up here and let's listen to Jason and Jenny now.
We think that it is 18 because 9 plus 9 is 18. And 2 yellows make one orange. It is the 18 because 9 plus 9 equals 18. 18 is the best number because it is the best number we had.
When we give children a situation that interests them, they wonder about the answer, and their involvement gives them a stake in the results, and they'll stick with it to try and make sense out of it.
I'm thinking about selling my horse.
Huh?
See, I bought my horse a while back for $50, and then I sold him to a friend for $60. Then I bought him back for $70, and now my friend's offered me $80 for him. I'm trying to figure out if I'll make money or lose money on the whole deal.
Now let me see if I've got this straight. You bought the horse for $50 and sold him for $60. Then you bought him back for $70.
Right.
Now you're thinking of selling him for $80 and you're trying to figure out if you're going to lose money or make money?
That's it.
The thing about the horse problem is it engages people at all levels. People are curious about it. The scenario makes total sense. The guy buys the horse, sells the horse. The money is not hard to deal with. The numbers are not difficult. But there's something perplexing about what to do. It's kind of elusive.
How much altogether? So now we need the total?
Math is more than arithmetic. Today, the notion of basics has broadened. So rather than merely being able to do pencil and paper computation, you've got to think about problems where numbers are used. You've got to pick the numbers that you're going to use. You've got to do the computation in some way that makes sense. And then you've got to make a human decision with that information. There's nothing in the world that doesn't really require a human decision, regardless of computers and calculators.
We run this business on 8 to 10% margins, which is the markup on the goods, which is very, very minimum. Most retailers are 50 to 100%. So every penny is profit.
524. We also have 33834. 33716 with a 1505. Total?
We need the human aspect to analyze the numbers. The computer doesn't do that part for us. It gathers the data, and then we analyze the data as the computer gives it to us. So to make the correct operating decisions on a day-to-day basis, we have to have that human input to analyze the numbers. This board over here is our sales board. Plan for this week was $1.9 million, and it's by day. We had planned to do $247,000 on Monday, $228,000 on Tuesday, and so on. And then at the end of the day, we write in what we actually did. On Monday, we actually did 250,000.2, so we are 3.2 thousand over what we planned for that given day. If you look through the whole week, you can see that we didn't do so well as the week progressed, and by the end of the week, we actually did $1,851.7, and which was a minus $48,300 from what we originally planned. I love what I'm doing, and I am good with the numbers and budgeting. I think I am. My bosses tell me I am. I usually hit the numbers pretty good. I look at it kind of as a game. It's my job, but it is still kind of a game to work with the projections. It's kind of a guesswork, and at the same time seeing how close we can come. Humans need to be there to put all the information into the system, and they need to be there to analyze the information that comes out of the system.
Children today have calculators from the time they're very young, and computers are part of their world and will continue to be part of their world. I want kids to be able to look at something that they do on the calculator and say, I don't think that's right, and know why.
That can't be right.
So even though we have calculators and we have computers, unless you can use those tools to think about numbers, and unless you can think about numbers in your own head, that the tools aren't going to serve you.
216.
To have children communicate about their thinking is important in all subject areas. It hasn't always been a part of mathematics. Mathematics has too long been seen as an isolated study that you do by yourself. Now we're bringing the whole area of communication into the mathematics classroom and therefore empowering children in a new way.
You're right, Marjan.
I think in a small group, you have a collective intelligence. One child might bring a particular point of view. Another child hears that point of view, gets a perspective on their thinking, and offers their point of view. So by putting their heads together, they start to see more in a situation than they would see by themselves.
You get one of those, I get one of those, Carla gets one of, CP gets one of, and then we each get a piece of these, and then we each get a whole one.
Okay, right. Okay, this is right. But there's another. But there's also another one. You can also use each of the rows, but then there will be 6 left. How do you divide? 6 pieces upon 4 people?
What we do is 1/6, because it's 1 out of 6 little pieces. And then right here, how we get 112 is if I had to put a line like this, count the little pieces, it'd be 12 pieces. That will be 1 out of 12. So each of us gets 1/6 and 112.
And also, when children are working in small groups, more children in the class have a chance to talk at the same time. And I think that when you talk about something, you have a way to explore your thinking and help you either extend your thinking or cement your understanding.
I think you'll make $10.
I'm thinking I'll break even.
How do you figure?
Well, let's see now.
He sold it for Eddie. Let's see.
Okay, let's see.
A math quiz? Oh dear.
19, 21, 22, 23. When you count by sevens, 31 comes up when you count by sevens.
Does someone have another idea?
I think we should check 31, the number, because I think it's wrong.
Kids make mistakes. Even in this kind of teaching, there's wrong answers. I want wrong answers to be seen by children as opportunities to learn something. What's so terrible? You're 8 years old, you're in the 3rd grade. If you knew so much, you'd be in the 4th grade, but that's what 3rd graders do,
Count
so
by
they make a
seven.
mistake.
Try it and see. Count by 7.
7, 14, 21, 28, 35.
Is 31 a multiple of 7? Yeah, okay.
Mistakes are opportunities, and I want them to be seen that way in the classroom.
Did stuff at their desk with the pencil, writing it forever and ever and ever, and then the board was the worst.
The teacher would write a lot on the blackboard, and she would put a lot of problems on the blackboard, and you would have to go up and do a lot of work on the blackboard.
One person would be picked in the classroom to come forward and figure out the example.
You sort of got singled out, and if you didn't know the answer to the question or gave the wrong answer or it took you too long to answer, it was kind of embarrassing.
It was interesting when we talked with parents how many of them remembered being sent to the chalkboard. I remember it too. And I was good in math, and still the fear was in me that this time I would mess up and be humiliated. I don't want that for children. But I do want children to stand up and present things that make sense to them, where the notion is they're going to give others an opportunity to see how they thought about something.
Well, I had the 24, and what we figured out, we had a 3 by 8, a 2 by 12, a 6 by 4.
Ryan, I noticed that you were working on one that wasn't on here. Tell them about what size that is.
It's a 1 by 24 or a 24 by 1.
Would you recommend that size?
Mm-mm.
Why not?
It's too long. It'd take up too much space.
You want to show it to the class first, and then you can read it to them? Okay. Hold it up just...
I had a 2 by 6, a 4 by 3, and a 1 by 12.
I've often done an exercise with parents where we list all the reasons why we use arithmetic. We do it for our checkbook, we do it for tipping in restaurants, in the supermarket, when I'm sewing. The list gets longer and longer. And then we go back and we look, how often do we need to be accurate? And when do we need to estimate? And usually, it's about a 50-50 split. But the important thing for children is, when do you use an estimate? When will an estimate be sufficient? And what size number makes sense? What I want you to do is to talk with your partner and see if you can make a guess about how many tiles are in here. How many tiles do you think I have in here?
20.
And Ben, how many do you think I have?
21.
And why do you think 21?
I just took the guess. 55.
And what makes you say 55?
Because it's in the middle of 100.
Janae, how many tiles do you think are in here?
40.
And why do you think 40?
Because it's almost half full.
Well, the Exploratorium is a raucous environment. It's a place where people come to have a good time. The only rule we have is don't run. So you're free to touch everything, to question everything. We're a nonprofit organization. We don't have a lot of money. We have to use the resources we can as best we can. And I have to be able to budget. I have to be able to guesstimate. I have to be able to balance things as I go along throughout the year in my job. So we budget and we forecast and we budget and we forecast. We always have to reconcile. At the end of the year, you have to reconcile a big way. And if you don't, you create a deficit, and we can't live with deficits.
I hear comments on TV, I see it in magazines, I read it in books. Math is always the bad guy. Math always has the rotten reputation. People talk about their algebra. They talk about their geometry experiences. I don't hear people saying, that was so interesting when I figured out how those shapes related to each other. Wasn't that fascinating, the way those numbers made sense? Those are the kind of conversations I want to see happening in our homes and in our communities at large.
Now I'm thinking I'll make $20.
I think you'll either be $10 ahead or $30 behind, depending on how you figure it.
Now that just can't be.
Now let's try it again. You bought it for $50.
Okay, let's see.
He bought it for $50
and sold it for $60. He made $10.
Then he bought it back for $70
and sold it for $80.
So that's what, 20 bucks difference?
Oh, he made...
Intuitionally, I would say he lost $20.
So that means he made $30.
He made 10 bucks, huh?
So he didn't make out at all.
$10.
He made $20 taxable.
How'd I do?
The thing about the horse problem is it's a clear example of a situation where there is a right answer, and there are multiple ways to get there. So rather than me telling you, approach it this way, more importantly, listen to each other. Sometimes I have families who can't even conceive of spending their time in any recreational way doing mathematics. And that's one of the reasons why our children have such a hard time relating to math. It's not around them all the time in a way that's very friendly. Maybe the horse problem can give you a start with that. I'm building the case for why this kind of mathematics teaching makes sense. And I know it's hard to give up what we know and what we've believed in. I think there's always a fear around changing, but I'm saying, look at the world, see how it's changing, and see that mathematics is changing along with it, and therefore children's math learning has to shift. I want to dispel the myth that math is dull and unimaginative. I want to make math exciting, interesting, and accessible to all students. And I'd like parents to learn along with their children as we're all moving towards the 21st century.